Please welcome the winner of the Best Supporting Actor Awards from the Los Angeles and National Society of Film Critics, Steven Yeun. Great to see you. Okay, Steven. So first of all, welcome, and thank you for being our first guinea pig tonight.
All right.
You were born in South Korea, but you were raised largely in the United States.
Yes.
What was your feeling going into this film where you were going to be speaking Korean throughout the entire film?
The eyes of my parents were looming over my head always. For me, it was just so strange how it all kind of came together. Director Lee, who I am a massive fan of, somehow called me through director Bong Joon-ho, who I got the pleasure to work with.
On Okja.
On Okja, in the middle of the night. And I just never thought I'd get a chance to work with him. I never thought there would be a situation where that might arise. And for this character and this particular project to kind of find its way into my life has been awesome. So the going back to Korea to do this for me was like amazing, life-changing.
And my understanding is that it's obvious for Korean speakers if it's an American speaking Korean versus a native Korean speaker. So how were you able to overcome that obstacle?
Well, luckily, my parents foregoed their English expertise in keeping our Korean alive. So at home, we only spoke Korean, whereas a lot of other friends that live in Korean families, sometimes their homes are mostly English, so they kind of lose that. My parents were really wonderful and kept that for me. And then when I went there, Director Lee is also a language professor, which helps. And so he coached me a lot. But I think what was really cool was he wanted me to get to a perfection of the language, but for me to keep my kind of otherness. I guess being American and being in that place kind of allows you to have this freedom where you don't have to play by the societal rules per se, because you have the out of saying, I just don't know. And he wanted to maintain that. So it created this little bit of ambiguity because every single parameter of his language was like, he's saying it right, but I don't feel like he's saying it right.
Well, I'm going to be a little cryptic because I imagine there are some people in this room who have not seen Burning, and by the way, go see it, however you can. But your character, Ben, is so mysterious and hard to figure out, which is exciting. What's your recollection of going through the script for the first time? Were you trying to figure out what was going on in this story, and what were you able to figure out when you read it?
Well, for me, he actually sent me the short story first. And I was actually talking with my wife about it on the phone, and she's just smarter than me, so she got to the bottom of it before I did.
It's really short too, right?
Yeah, so short. And what was really fun was we both read it, and we were both like, we know which one he's going to ask you to play. Not for any particular like personality reason, but it just made sense. And so yeah, I think going into it, I was just fascinated by the ambiguity of it all. I was fascinated by this space that a person like Ben could inhabit, where he's operating from, kind of where he views reality from. And that's how we approached a lot of it. So when I read the script, it just felt natural. A lot of our discussions were rarely about performance and more about we would meet like 3 times a week, even when we weren't shooting, just to chat. And mostly we just talked about like philosophy. Yeah, it was fun. I had a really crash course.
I love it. When people come up to you having seen the movie, are they like driven crazy by the ending of the movie? Because it is super ambiguous. And that's the point of it.
Yeah.
What are people saying to you?
Well, ambiguity is definitely a factor within the film. I think I don't know if it's particularly like the goal. I would say it kind of presents a world. To me, Director Lee's films have always been a way of reflecting the world back at the viewer. And a lot of the times, sometimes when a viewer comes up and asks, what did you do or what happened? Usually they're talking about literal plot, but I think what we were all trying to go for was just an openness to the film in of itself to tell you a story that you kind of direct, that you impose what these people are and what they did. Not necessarily as like the point of the film, but definitely a layer that I think helps get into the film. But I do understand some people just want to know what happened. Very simply.
We're going to talk later, and because I do want to know. What was it like for you to be back there in South Korea filming this? I mean, is The Walking Dead a huge deal over there too? Like, was everyone flipping out that Glenn was in, in Korea?
I had been there a couple times before, so I knew what to expect in terms of that. I think Korea definitely has a lot of love and pride for Koreans working abroad, so it was really wonderful. I think what was really interesting for me to go back to Korea and work in that capacity was just feeling kind of other everywhere. And that could sound sad or, not great, but really for me it was wonderful. It was kind of this feeling of just being me. It was like no one else could recreate that, and I felt that because a place that was supposed to be a place where I feel at home didn't feel at home, and sometimes when I'm here, I also sometimes don't feel at home. So you just feel like an alien everywhere, and it's cool. Yeah.
Last quick thing. I was fascinated to learn that you have a background in comedy from Second City in Chicago. I love that about you.
Oh, thank you.
Is that something that you want to pursue more of? Because we think of you in these serious shows and movies.
Yeah, my improv group is probably confused at some of the choices that I've made. But I don't know. I'll be honest with you. I've been having a wonderful time doing whatever I've been able and fortunate enough to be a part of. I would love to do comedy. We'll just see what that looks like.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, I'm thrilled you're here. So please help me thank Stephen Yeun, everybody. And we'll see Stephen a little bit later in the evening, back with the rest of the group. But right now, before we bring out the star of BlacKKlansman, John David Washington, let's take a look at a clip of him in the movie.